I am ready.
All right, we're recording.
Welcome.
Welcome.
We're trying something new today at burnoutstudios.com. Welcome to our podcast. I'm Marty. He's Bruce.
Yeah. We're learning that we need to do pre-production.
Last time we were here, we talked about some of the projects that we want to do. I am working on the short stories, and we're going to create a kind of a sister channel to this where you can tune in and watch or listen to short stories, and artwork will be involved, and it'll be like reading a book or having a book read to you with pictures. So I think it'll be great. I would also, we had talked about maybe putting in sound effects and maybe even background music, to set the mood. So
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
But we'll,
I was talking about how I like the idea of trying to create those old serial TV shows.
Right.
The Knock Knock and all that stuff. Yeah.
Right. Get some celery for someone's neck being broken.
Exactly. I think it'd be kind of crazy. It'd be a fun little blast to do.
Yep.
But what this is
this is something else we talked about.
Welcome to the movies. I don't know, what are we going to call this?
I guess you could call it a movie review. That's basically the category that falls in. But we're not Siskel and Ebert, so. When we talk about movies, just like any other movie reviewer, we're coming at it from our point of view. These are our opinions. Because a lot of people, a lot of critics will come at it from, oh, this cinematography was so great, or blah, 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 blah. And, for me, most of it is about story. And, if it doesn't have a good story, it's really not that good.
But I can enjoy a good movie, cinematography-wise.
Right.
I think for me, like, the perfect example is The Last Jedi. I think the story's the worst thing ever made. One of the worst things ever made. But I can visually...
It's pretty.
I can visually enjoy that movie. It is a very, 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 very pretty movie.
Well, what's funny is, this will be a tangent because it's not a movie we're supposed to.
That's what we do best,
right?
Is tangents.
It's a movie that actually did win one Academy Award, but the acting was poor, the story was pretty basic, but it was such an enjoyable movie. Starship Troopers.
Oh yeah.
And I can say that, like I said, it wasn't that deep of a story or anything, but it was enjoyable to watch.
Right.
And it won an Academy Award for that special effects.
Well, one thing we're going to fix on this, and we have to apologize now. Maybe we'll have to figure out something. But one of my pet peeves about watching videos is when people take forever to actually get to the damn subject.
All right.
There's a lot of videos that I've turned off,
right?
Because they just aren't. They're not.
Right.
They're talking everything but the damn thing that I actually clicked on to see. So sorry.
So
this is our review of
our movie review today. Is actually a movie that I didn't really like called Timeline. But it was based on a book that is one of my favorite books ever written. Because Michael Chariton is probably my favorite author. I guess, you could say he's my favorite author. And it's mostly because when you read his books, they are quick moving. They're not very big, and to me, as a reader, it just totally sucks you in, and it feels like you're watching a movie. It's fast paced. They're really well written, and then they made the Timeline movie, and in this particular case, Michael Crichton really just kind of sold them the rights to do whatever they wanted with it, and they did whatever they wanted with it.
Yeah. Well, I haven't. I think this is the only book that I can think of that I've read of his. I don't know if I've read any other ones. I can't remember. I haven't read.
You haven't written the original Jurassic Park?
No,
Oh,
I have
God.
not read a lot of books. I'm not a very fast reader, and because of that, I can get bored quickly. There's a lot of books I've started that I haven't been able to finish just because I just can't stick with it. But from what Marty has talked about, he talked about the fact that he was very heavily involved with Jurassic Park, Michael Crichton.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that I loved about Timeline, the book, over the movie is what I could also see in Jurassic Park, because probably was in the book, is he is like his environment is another character.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see that the island in Jurassic Park was a character. It wasn't just a setting,
Right.
but it was an actual character. You know, he made sure. I think, you know, you could really feel the tropical island jungle feeling of it. You know, the Jurassicness of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, when we come down to talking about this movie, all the stuff that he wrote in it about the historical stuff, which is what this movie is really about, just got glassed over.
Right.
It's like, oh, you can visually see it. No, I think the whole point of it was these weren't just, this isn't time cop. These aren't just cops going back in time to fix history. So they don't care about the historical stuff. All they care about is fixing. So like in Time Cop, all he cares about is fixing time. Mm-hmm. He doesn't care, oh, look, I'm wearing a 1980s shirt. Oh, that's cool. Or this was, you know, whereas these historians would have been like, and it's in the book. It's like, wow, look at the clothing. Look at the stitching. Look at the weaving on those tapestries. Isn't that amazing? Oh, this is so cool. And all of that was in the book just got dumped.
Right.
And to me, that was the magic of the book.
Mm-hmm.
So I keep telling Marty,
it was a comparing and contrasting of history versus, you know, modern day.
And this tagline on the movie poster, this Braveheart with a 21st century twist, that's not what I got from reading the book.
No, not at all. Because it's funny.
What I got from the book was a bunch of historians went back in time to save somebody.
Right.
I mean, the whole point is the one guy stays there.
Right.
Why? Because he's so fucking in love with history that he wants to live it, and so he stays there.
Right.
Right?
Because, well, you know, it's funny because the book starts out, and
spoilers.
Yeah,
spoilers.
Sorry.
Go watch it and then come watch our review.
Right.
Sorry.
Well,
I guess
go
we should
read the book.
I guess we should put that up at the beginning. Spoilers, right?
Right. Lots of spoilers. But no, the book, it starts out and it has one of the best opening scenes, in my opinion, of any book / movie. I mean, there's a movie that I would have loved to have seen made, and that was the actual book. I mean, I don't know, when somebody takes a book and adapts it to a screenplay, why so much stuff gets dumped. Because at the first of the book in timelines...
Supposedly pacing.
Right. And at the first of the book in timelines, the book, it starts out as a mystery. There's some doctors that are driving through the desert, and they run into a guy who's speaking gibberish and singing, you know, at the top of his lungs, to John Denver's Country Road, singing, quantum foam makes me roam to a place where I don't belong, you know, type of thing. You know, he's just, you know, all over the place.
I think
they take him to a hospital where he violently dies on a table, you know, convulsing and dying, and it's a great scene. And then when they do the autopsy and they look into it, they notice that his bones looks like it's been cut and grafted back together, but it's you know, millimeters off and stuff like that, and you know, it just keeps on raising more and more questions. So the first of the book is them trying to figure out what happened to this guy. And then, you know, they research and find out where he worked and what he was doing. and then they finally get to the point where they discover that these people have invented time travel, and and it's a to me that's would have been the best way to start out the movie, but in the movie it just kind of jumps straight into, okay, there's these doctors, they've discovered time travel, your son or your father has traveled into time, and you got to go rescue him, and that's pretty much the movie in a nutshell. And the movie it concentrates more on the story in the past, which is it's a war, one of the most violent wars of the time. But really, in the book, it was more about them going back into that time period and trying to blend in so they weren't noticed, so they could rescue the person that was stuck back there. Because the time travel, even though it was possible, every time you would do the jump, it would destroy your body a little bit more, and you would reach a point where if you jumped one more time, it would kill you, and that's what happened to the doctor at the very beginning of the book. So yeah, I mean the book is amazing, fast-paced, great story, but and it keeps you constantly engaged since it has that mystery feel to it. But the movie not so much.
Right, the movie not so much, which is funny because I mean, we came at this idea with the idea of talking about our favorite movies, and then to talk about this one like this, to start this off as our first one, it's like that. I think it's because like the book, there's a scene in the book when they first arrive back in medieval times. They're walking around, they're trying to head towards the city, but they stop and they're like talking about how creeped out they are because there's no ambient noise. There's no sounds of electronics humming. There's no cars on freeways or streets in the background. And it's just a little unnerved. And it was like, there's I think they said it in the movie, but it was just a passing thing.
Right.
It was something that wasn't, to me the whole idea of the book was these are historians going back in history.
Right. And there's some things that they get wrong and some things that they get right, and that's one of the things that
but they should
Michael
love
Crichton,
all the historical stuff.
Michael Crichton, talked about that in Jurassic Park. All of these archaeologists who are studying dinosaurs, they think that this is what the animal would have looked like and how it would have acted, but there's no really way anybody's sure about that.
Right.
I mean, there's still arguments on whether dinosaurs had feathers or lizards
or reptilian. Yeah, I don't know.
So it's hard to say.
Yeah. Well, see, it's been so long since I've seen the movie, and I can't remember. We need to watch them again.
Yeah.
And because I just didn't get the sense when I was watching it, like I did in the book, that the characters cared about where they were at. I love art and stuff, and so if I was able to go back and see like the Sistine Chapel just after it was built,
mm-hmm.
I wouldn't just be like, oh, I'm walking around. I'd be like, I'd be staring at the damn thing for hours. It's just like, oh, here's a good example. So I had a bike back in Modesto where we lived, and it got stolen. And our neighbor above us said that he just found a bike out by the trash can, and I was explaining what it looked like. And he's like, oh, that's the bike. And what it was somebody probably had scared the guy stealing out of our back apartment, and they just dumped it. And he saw it there, and so he took it home. And when I went upstairs, to get it from him, found out that he used to do paintings for, what's the Smithsonian stuff, the dishes. Remember those dishes they used to sell on TV?
Yeah.
Was it Smithsonian
I don't know.
or something like that? They were, the commemorative, decorative
Right.
dishware, and you get like the set of Star Wars characters or Star Trek. Well, he would do like wolves and things. He painted wolves, and he had a couple of his original paintings up on the wall. And I was looking at him, but I was staring at him literally this close to the...
Right, so you could see brush strokes.
Yeah, I was looking at the brush strokes and all that stuff, and he was like, well, I can tell you like art because you care more about how it was made than what it is of, and and I felt like these historians go back in time and they care less about seeing all the historical stuff, how things were made, how things actually looked or felt, and maybe that was part of the problem with actually making it, because maybe they didn't know, but we have stuff, I think, from some of these time periods, so we know how things were made, but it's like the first time these guys saw an authentic suit of armor, they should have just been like,
right. Because that's one of the things
orgasming or something.
That's one of the things I remember them talking about in the book was, it was, they're in modern day and they're, they haven't gone back in the past and stuff, and one of the characters picks up a sword. Like I said, this is in the book, and he's, there was an argument amongst these experts where they were saying that there's no way that anybody could have been swinging these things around quickly, and that sword fighting must have looked, clunky, just big heavy swings where they would, miss and, overshoot their target and stuff like that. And but then when they travel back in time and they see these people fighting with these swords that are, tremendously heavy, they are wielding them with, precision, and, they're able to make strikes and, recover and not overextend and all this kind of stuff. And, I think when you practice enough, your muscles just develop to the point where, you can do all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, some of that stuff was, some of like the Viking swords were amazingly nimble and lightweight, 3.5 pounds or something like that, and so well balanced between the hilt to the blade that they could.
Like in Braveheart, he had that big. Some of those swords like that weren't necessarily always carried like this. They would use it sort of as a staff almost, and they'd.
That was the reason for the long handles, and stuff. And martial arts just gets Eastern martial arts is what we think of all the time, but we don't think of, and they've resurrected quite a bit of those sword fighting martial arts now. Yep. But I think a good example of that too is Hector and Achilles in
Troy.
Thank you. And that movie Troy is, and not only that, but the innovative choreography they used with the staffs. I've never seen staffs. The idea when he swings out with that staff, brings it around, wraps around his head, hooks onto his staff and to his shield, and then strikes with it that was fascinating. I never. It was like, it was amazing. It was it's stuff that this is all you do with the thing, And I know we watched Chinese martial arts, but that's and even some of that stuff's so impractical that, but it's like, where was all that love of the historical stuff that
in the movie?
And I understand so much stuff gets put on the cutting floor because it's pacing, it's timing, and I guess they cared more about explosions and things like that than the historical nuts like us that would enjoy the historical aspects of it. I used to watch a show back in the day called Totally Rad Show, and they talked about it being like it's like movie porn. Is like Michael Bay just makes movie porn.
Explosions.
So yeah, it's like explosions, a little bit of talking, explosions, a little bit of talking, explosions. Instead of sex, a little bit of talking, sex, a little bit of talking. Like it's just explosion. All you care about is getting to the next action scene.
Right?
And that's what that movie was.
Well, yeah. I mean,
when it could have been so much more. I mean, you look at movies like In the Name of the Rose.
Yeah.
That explores. You really kind of sucked into this whole medieval monastery thing, and you could feel the cold of having to live in drafty castles and things like that.
Because it's, I don't know what it is, why directors or writers of screenplays and stuff think that's what an audience wants. Because then, you have director writers that come along and throw all that shit right out the window, and they're applauded for it, because they, didn't give the audience just action, 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 action. It was, conversation. It was, what's that?
My phone.
Huh, weird. But like Tarantino will have. I'm sorry, I always seem to always fall back on Tarantino, but he introduced movies that not only had action in it, and there was plenty of it, but he had conversations that didn't mean anything to the plot whatsoever. It was just two people talking about hamburgers. And that was revolutionary enough to where people were copying it. Now in movies you always see some conversations that don't mean anything to the plot. It's like, and that's the way it should be, because life is not,
plot driven.
This plot driven thing, and I mean, it's just funny, what certain directors and think the audience wants is never really what the audience wants. I mean, I think Michael Chariton, when he wrote these things, he was fascinated with science, obviously, and in history, and he wrote it, from his point of view of wanting to, talk about the stuff that entertained him, and I think that the people that read the books, that's what was the entertaining part about reading his books, because in Jurassic Park, just him explaining the science behind so many things, and sure, it was all theoretical because we haven't actually built a Jurassic Park, but that was part of the fun of reading his books.
Was this movie at least enjoyable to watch visually?
Timelines?
Yeah. So a perfect example of that to me is Kingdom of Heaven. I think plot-wise and story-wise is really bad. It's very boring. It's Orlando Bloom in Jerusalem.
I remember.
It's very, very boring. There could be so much more done to it because it has this great historical plot to it. Why was Jerusalem so important? Why,
Right.
all the blah 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 blah. We're not talking about that movie, but visually, oh man, you talk about wardrobes, settings, just bringing Middle East alive, and even and then even England and their trip across Europe in the beginning, the stark contrast of the cold in the woods that they were at to the hot desert was phenomenal cinematography and sets and all that set and costuming across the board. was just. I can watch that movie just for that.
Well, it's funny because, I mean, so if we're going to say the same thing about timelines, I don't know if I would say that they spent a lot of money on that film.
Right. I don't think so. And so once again, going back to the idea of it, to me, the whole freaking point of this movie that Michael Crichton did was his idea of playing in time.
Right.
Why is he playing in time? Because he must love that time period. He must love historical things. The idea of seeing actual knights running around in armor and chainmail and
the fighting styles.
And the fighting styles and seeing tapestries on walls and blah, blah, blah. Walking through the streets and just mud and horse crap and human crap and all this stuff, and all of that.
Because I think of it, like I said, the book
exited the movie. Just erased.
The book was that compare and contrast thing, and they didn't really do that much in the movie. I mean, they tried. They inserted stuff where they could, but it seemed like their main focus was on that war in the past. Sure, the war was important, but don't you think rescuing the person that you went back there to rescue is the most important thing? Because in the movie they decide that they have to win this war to escape back or whatever. It's like, no, in the book they were more concerned about blending in so nobody would notice them and target them for death.
Right. In fact, I think
for being a heretic.
They said don't even talk to anybody.
Right.
Because even your best attempt at old English won't work, and they'll think you're from another country. They'll think you're French or something, and then throw you in the dungeon and or kill you. So it's like he's like there were so many little fun things that was in the book.
I mean, they did have the bad guy who was from the future who actually did manage to blend in. He was still the bad guy in the movie, but still.
I can't remember. Was there a bad guy from the future?
Yeah, there was one of the guys who came back, and he became a kind of a lieutenant.
I don't even remember that.
Type of, royalty on the other side.
It's the guy from Twilight, from but yeah, they Michael Sheen.
Yeah,
I think that's his name, Michael Sheen.
Yeah, but I mean, so he was trying to keep them. I don't even know why he was trying to keep them from jumping back to the future. Maybe he was just trying to keep them from winning the war. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, how long have we gone?
30 minutes.
Oh.
Is there any more that we really... I mean,
we
can just wrap up with the scoring.
Yeah.
And talk about that.
I mean, I highly recommend people to read this book.
Yeah. We don't recommend you to go watch the movie.
Even, the book is about yay thick. But
it's double spaced with big writing. I mean, it really is fast.
Yeah. And
for somebody like me to read it and say that, then...
Right.
You know what it reminds me of? If you've read Ready Player One, it's almost the same. It's kind of very easy, quick reading.
But yeah, I mean, it moves at a fast pace because Michael Crichton is a great writer in my opinion.
It's not a Tom Clancy book, so you'll be grateful for that. It's not
yeah, I'm trying to think of other writers that.
It's funny because this is supposed to be a movie review, and yet
it's more of a book review.
It's more of a book review. So, because cinematography, like I said, plot, but if we go with the book, I mean, cinematography is amazing. The The plot's awesome. The storytelling's great. It's a must read. Go out, read it right now.
Mm-hmm.
The movie, you don't
Maybe
need to see it.
Maybe
Maybe
I'll be nice and
if
say
you're so bored, you want to watch something.
You should watch it just so you can see if we're full of shit.
There you go. There you go. Well, all right.
I don't know what Marty was talking about. That's but no. I think this is one of those things where some people say that maybe it's not a good idea to read the book before you see a movie. But no, I guess the old argument is that the book is always better.
Right. One of our little things here, faithfulness to original content.
Yeah, no.
Third act of this one just fell apart because they tried doing stuff that they didn't need to do.
Mm-hmm. Because I think that there's been successful book to movie adaptations. I think that the first Harry Potter book and the first Harry Potter movie are fairly identical.
Yeah, except even that one, I can't remember. No, Dobby wasn't in that one.
No.
But in the last one.
No, I'm not. I said first. I didn't.
Yeah, first book.
I didn't mean the whole series.
Well, I was trying to remember
if
he was in that one or not.
By the third movie, the Harry Potter movies deviated away from the book in the fact that one of the biggest criticisms I have of the third Harry Potter movie, Christopher Columbus was no longer on it. He wasn't the director.
Mm-hmm.
He directed the first two, which I thought were great. The third one, the characters, show up in the movie, and they're no longer dressed in their school uniform.
Right.
And they're wearing Muggle clothes. And not only just Muggle clothes, they're wearing like a Gap brand, Abercrombie and Fitch type clothing, so they look modern day. And I don't know why, but a lot of people didn't seem to care. But me, it took me straight out of the story because it was like, wait a second, this goes against everything in the book. They don't know what Muggles wear. Ron doesn't know what Muggles wear.
Well, Ron kind of does because his dad has a love of Muggle stuff.
Right, but it's always mismatched and bullshit.
And Hermione does because her parents are...
Right.
But, and I mean, yeah, I understand that part of it, but yeah, the
But I mean, I called the third one
and that's when they
Harry Potter and the Abercrombie and Fitch ad.
Yeah, that's the one where they got rid of Dobby because Dobby was a main character. I mean, we saw a lot of stuff that he does behind the, and he just got lost.
But I will say once again that the first movie and the first book are fairly identical.
Yeah. And I think without the clothing, but I mean, I would say the last one. Is pretty, and the Half-Blood Prince is pretty close.
They stopped doing the whole weird clothing thing and went back to
but they're in the last one, since they're on the run, they're going back and forth between Muggle and the Wizarding World. You don't mind them not being in their Wizarding clothes because they're not at school, but
yeah.
So that part really didn't bug me.
Right.
But yeah, when they're at the school, they're supposed to be in school clothes because in Britain you wear a uniform to school,
right?
And so that's half the identity of school. There is that. Where in America, the identity of school is your personal choice of what you want to wear that day, And
but that first movie, man.
Well, let's save that. We'll save that stuff for. We'll save that stuff for Harry Potter.
Right.
But this one, so definitely go out and read the book. That's a must read.
Watch the movie.
movies. Watch it.
Sure. Why not?
All right. Hey, thanks a lot for hanging out this long with us. And,
Right.
hey, if you have some movies down there you want us to watch, let's watch it. We
Right.
might even, I was going to pitch this to Marty, but might even, we have a Patreon, might re-up it again. And we might think about streaming live. I was going to pitch this of a movie. If either of us haven't seen it, we could stream it live on Patreon with a reaction as we're watching
Right.
stuff. That
That'd be
might be fun. So,
But
the only problem though is we've lost a lot of damn movies.
right.
A lot of damn movies. My favorite thing to do on Amazon and Netflix is to go down the list and be like, seen it,
Right.
seen it. And then I'm like 2/3 of the way going, damn, I've seen a lot of movies.
Yeah.
But, all right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
We'll have to come up with the next book or next movie, and
Right.
we're gonna try to do 3 of these at a time, I think.
Yeah.
All right, later.
Bye.
Bye.